Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bleav in Bengal podcast. I'm your host, Solomon Wilcots. And today we have a very special guest. He's one of the great New York football giants, one of the best to ever play for that proud franchise. 12 seasons in the National Football League, a two-time Super Bowl champion. He also does the radio play-by-play and color analyst for the New York football giants. And he took some time to come and share with us today, the great Carl Banks, everyone. Carl, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Solly, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, man.
Man, look, we got to let people know also, man, look, you are a member of the Giants Ring of Honor. And when you call games for them each and every Sunday, and I know you've been doing that for 19 seasons now. Is that it?
Yeah.
Look, when you say what you need to say, when you're calling these games, I know you guys have a standard. You played on some great Giants teams. You played for Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, man. Look, you guys, you hold one another accountable. And so when we made the trade, and I say we, Cincinnati Bengals, made the trade for Dexter Lawrence, I was excited. Everyone in this town is excited. I said, I got to get Carl Banks on here because I know that this past year, Dexter Lawrence was clearly not on top of his game. I think he can play better. A lot of us thinks that he can play better, but you were very open and honest in terms of holding him accountable. So I want to have a conversation with you today about what that was all about. What is it that you saw, and what is it that we should know here in Cincinnati about Sexy Dex?
Well, I think first and foremost, Solomon, I think it's worth saying that Bob and I have a really unique situation here in New York where management and ownership only require us to be honest with the fans because they believe the fans deserve it. They don't want us to carry pom-poms into a broadcast booth, right? And so I bring a perspective that's fair and it's honest. And, I am number one, a Giants fan. Right. So I want these kids to do good. I want every coach that, as long as he's wearing a Giants uniform, be it a coach or a player, I want them to have success. And so I'm their biggest defender when they're unjustly criticized in this ecosystem with the fans. But by the same token, I will hold them accountable. Now, and there's some things that are different. There are certain players where you see that they've set a standard of play. Yeah. Right. And if that standard of play that they've gotten us accustomed to seeing is all of a sudden disappearing and there's no real explanation. And because I've been where those guys are. You've been where those guys are, and we don't have all the information.
That's right. That's right. That's very fair. Very fair.
Right. So I always leave some window for explanation. And maybe he's going through something. Maybe he's still injured. And in the case of Dexter Lawrence, he had elbow surgery, right? Yeah. And so I left it there. I left it to maybe he's dealing with something, but it's not the same. And I was pretty frank about it in saying that the opponent doesn't respect you anymore. Not the guy who's a game wrecker. They don't respect you like that anymore. And people got upset. He was upset about it. And I'm okay with him, being upset because, that shows you got a little pride.
That's right.
But it didn't come off the cuff. I'm looking at a stretch of about 4 or 5 games where he was dealing with backups and not a lot of help from those backups. Like he was singled. And I'm like, this never happens. He would eat these guys for lunch. And, for you Bengals fans out there, let me just be clear about what you have in Dexter Lawrence. He's a game wrecker. He loves playing the game.
Yeah.
Right. So I hope that's the guy you have because he's Larry Allen strong. He's Reggie White strong. Like
I've seen
he's
him
not
dominate.
movable. If he doesn't want to be moved,
he's not moving.
he's not moving, and then you're moving
Yeah.
backwards. He can impose
That's
his
right.
will on anybody in this league. He's
That's right.
unblockable when he's on his game. That disappeared for a stretch. And I questioned it. And when I said what I said, it wasn't, taking a shot at him. I'm looking at the opponent. And then after that was said, I had an opposing coach come up to me and say, hey, don't wake him up. We like him just like he is here. So that doesn't tell you, what they're thinking of you, and they're happy you're not the disruptor that you've normally been.
Yeah.
So, and we still don't know whether or not the injury was still bothering him or not. He finished the season relatively strong. And I know there were some contract things of that nature. He's my favorite player. He's still my favorite Giant.
Yeah.
But he didn't smile a lot. He just wasn't happy.
That's
right.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's what I wanted to ask you about. I wanted to ask you about that because look, you played a long time in this league, and even Joe Burrow even said last year there was moments where he wasn't having fun. We hear this from a guy like Aaron Rodgers that his love for the game came back after a couple of years with New York Jets. He was questioning, did he still have that love for the game? And I think there are players in our career, in the arc of our career, at times when the team is struggling. The Giants have been struggling over the last few years. He's been one of the mainstays. I remember 2 years ago when the Bengals came to MetLife Stadium in that Monday night game, he was phenomenal that night. I thought he gave them a chance to stay in the game and win the game, but they just haven't been able to put it together. How much of some of those things wore on him and sort of led to the year that we saw last season?
All of those things are a factor. I don't know everything. I analyze football, right?
There you go. You go by what you see,
Right. I go by what I see, and I always leave some room. If you want to, rebut that, that's fine. But I'm just looking at the football of it. And but I do know he did not have fun last year. And he probably sat the whole offseason thinking about, how miserable it is because they just weren't a very good team. But I thought you can be part of the problem or part of the solution. I thought that as the Giants would move forward, he would be a cornerstone of, really turning the thing around. But, players are businessmen. He wanted a new deal. I'd never begrudge a player of wanting more money. I think, every player is worth every penny they can get a team to pay them. So I think from the onset, he just wanted out. I don't think he left any room for them to bring him back, and that's his prerogative. As a Cincinnati Bengal, he's going to be surrounded with some good players, probably better in some areas, and they just drafted some good players up front too. So I hope his joy for the game comes back. He's just unstoppable when he is, when he's on, and he's been on more than he's been off. Let's be clear, right? So you're not getting a dog, right? Not a dog in the bad sense. His career, he's been consistently good, and then at times he's been great and unblockable. Whenever he wants to impose his will, I just want nothing but the best for him, and I think this change of scenery for him could be great. I think one of the things that was a kind of a telltale sign was that, I don't want to say he battled with it, but, he was overweight, and, it just didn't seem like it got down. And that's a sign as an athlete that, it is what it is. You know what I mean? In your head, it's like, I ain't busting my tail. And I'm not putting words in Dexter's mouth,
Yeah,
But
yeah,
when the weight issue, it just plateaus, and you're just like, I'm gonna just work where I'm at right now.
yeah.
That
Mm-hmm.
just tells you that there's something inside of him that says, I'm gonna just be what I'm gonna be right now.
Yeah,
Right. And that was unfortunate. But like I said, I don't know anything other than what I see.
yeah,
Right. And if
yeah.
nobody
Mm-hmm.
is dispelling what I see, and then, there was, his position coach, kind of took offense to what I said too. But, there were times where the Detroit game, overtime,
Mm.
NFL is sudden death, right?
Yep.
If you get the opportunity um, to score first, game's over,
Yeah.
right? So Detroit gets the ball, Dexter's not in the game in overtime. And I openly question, why don't you have your best player on the field? And the post game or that following week, his coach said it was part of a rotation. And I'm saying, it's sudden death.
Game's
What
on
is
the
the
line.
rotation? That rotation never came, right? So if he
That's right.
was supposed to be in on third
Mm-hmm.
down never came. They scored on
Yeah.
second down,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
I'm from, where you're from, in a competitive situation, in a
That's the
sudden
money
depth
game on the
situation.
line, baby. Game's on the line. Yeah.
I don't put my best guy on the sideline and say, I'm going to wait until your turn comes. Your turn is now.
That's right. That's right.
And so there was so much of that there. And I'm like, I don't know if he was winded. I don't know. But when he's on the field, they were better in Detroit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
During
When
that
he,
game. And so,
Mhm.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now I was going to ask, when he is at his best, and you've called, I mean, every game that he's played in with the Giants,
Mhm.
you've seen him when he's at his best and what he can do for a team. And that's what Cincinnati fans are anticipating. They're anticipating the best that Dexter Lawrence
They're
has
going
to
to get that
offer.
from him.
Yeah. What does that look like when he's at his best? What does it look like? What does he do for a defense?
He demoralizes offensive players. He literally makes you not want to try to block him.
Yeah.
And I think and I'm pretty sure that's what Bengals fans can look forward to. I mean, when I talk about, he's got Larry Allen strength, and he's functional. He's Reggie White on the inside. And I'm not talking about all the other stuff, but he's just hard to block.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
he demoralizes you, and he lets you know that in a fun-loving way that you're just not going to block me today. He'll
right.
tell you, you're not blocking me today.
Wow.
That's the Dexter Lawrence that Giants fans loved. He enjoyed playing it, and I'm just hoping that joy has returned, and I suspect that it has.
Yeah. He's anticipated. He's got a former college teammate in T. Higgins. You remember B.J. Hill? He's been a godsend for the Cincinnati Bengals. In fact, we should just go ahead and send you guys some kind of gift, a bouquet of flowers, and say thank you for gifting us good defensive linemen, because B.J. Hill's been phenomenal for the Bengals since he arrived, and now you have given us Dexter Lawrence. We did give you a 10th overall pick for him, but I think the Bengals fans owe the Giants some thank yous, because both those guys back together. What does that mean? That they're good friends, and he was sitting at B.J. Hill's house, as the deal was getting done. So it was highly anticipatory that deal was going to get done, because he was sitting with a couple of Bengals while it was happening.
Well, I think the plus to that is that when you have a teammate that is a friend who's a former college teammate, there's a level of accountability that you're going to hold each other to.
Good point. Yeah.
Right? They both had success in college.
Yep.
Now they're together again. They want to kind of redo that, that success that they had, that level of dominance that they had. So they're going to have each other's back. They're going to hold each other accountable. And I think that's a plus for the Bengals defense, because when you see those two guys that are holding each other to a standard, they're going to hold everybody else to a standard, and everybody's going to raise their game to try to match that. So that's the exciting aspect of having him there with BJ, because he's got a partner in crime. BJ's got a partner in crime. And now, everybody else can look at those two and say, okay, we're about to wreck some things.
Yeah. Carl, I've been over the last year or so making these huge observations about, how teams are going about winning, the real successful teams. And I said, look, the best quarterbacks aren't winning the Super Bowls. It's the quarterback with the best defense that's winning the Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts with the defense that Vic Fangio gave him in Philly. And then last year, no one's arguing that Sam Darnold was the best quarterback in our league, but he certainly brought the best defense with him to the Super Bowl party when they beat the Patriots. And look, if you need the play at quarterback, there's no doubt about it. But if you don't have that defense, it's just not going to happen. Cincinnati Bengals have gone 3 straight years without even making the playoffs, despite having the presence of a phenomenal quarterback like Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So and I'm noticing these teams have waves of pass rushers. It used to be you and Lawrence Taylor coming off the edge, man, and that's all. That's all the team had. If you had 2, you were lucky. The really good teams today, they're trying to get multiple people to get to the quarterback, and I think with a 17 and soon to be 18 game schedule, you almost need 2 waves of rushers, a first unit and a second unit to get through a season if you're going to have that kind of dominating defense. Your thoughts?
You're right. And here's another thing that you have to take note of too. When it comes to defense, it's also stopping the run, because the successful teams now don't rely on a quarterback. They rely quarterback play, a strong run game, and a great defense.
Great defense.
Right? The reality of, I think, our league right now is that we're going through that matriculation process at quarterback.
That's right.
Some of the greats are, getting on their way out. And some of the young kids are just not there. They haven't come of age yet. So you compliment them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then when you have this window with Joe Burrow, and you give him a defense, we know he can score a lot of points. That offense, Zach, and that coaching staff, they can dial it up, and they can get you in a game. Right. They can get you back in a game. Right. So I think the window right now is really wide open for Cincinnati to really come out of the AFC. When you look at, let's say, Buffalo, who's always kind of found a way, they had 4,000 yards from a quarterback and 1,600 from a running back, but they couldn't stop anybody, so they couldn't win.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So it's got to be complementary football, right?
That's right.
And so
that's right.
When you can create a negative yard, a negative play on first down, most offensive coordinators will tell you second and long,
they're behind the 8 ball.
Very hard. That's a hard play to call, right? Because you can face up. It's a lot of things, right? And then once you're behind the chains on second down, you can't control what a defense does to you, right? No. And so offenses don't like, facing blitzes on second down. So to be able to generate negative yardage with this Bengals front is going to be a lot of fun to watch, because then they'll be able to really get after the quarterback.
And it all starts with Sexy Dex in the middle of that defense. He's got B.J. Hill. He's got Jonathan Allen, Boye Mafe. And they have a host of other guys that they really are counting on. This is going to be a very pivotal year for the Cincinnati Bengals. We should let people know that you're also the host of the Bleav in Giants on the Bleav Network. And look, you joined up with some friends. I want people to know that's who you are. I hope you could see that pretty good. I know I got the ring light that's kind of blocking it. That's you and your friends. Is that Pepper Johnson with you? Is that Otis Anderson with
Pepper
you?
Pepper Johnson, Otis Anderson. I got Phil Simms there. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of our 1986 Super Bowl 21
That's cool.
victory, and that was a year of good defense for us too. That's the one that set the standard for Giants defense.
Yeah.
You know, I think we went the whole season without allowing a 100-yard rusher, and you know, we played in an era in that year. We had Marcus Allen, we had Eric Dickerson, we had Barry Sanders, we had some Thurman Thomas. We had a lot of good ones. We stopped them all, yeah. So that's the standard, right? That's the Big Blue Wrecking Crew standard that we want to see this Giant defense return to.
Here in Cincinnati, I tell Phil every time I see him, he's big time around here. You know, he went to Morehead State, just across the river in Kentucky. You know, he's a Kentucky boy, even though he's big city now. He's New York, right? But he's still
a country boy.
Yeah, he really is, right? They still love him in these parts. I'm telling you, he's the stuff of legend. And I still remember a Super Bowl, man, where the ball barely hit the ground, when he goes 22 of 25, some crazy number. Yeah. And with the defense you guys had, that team and some of those teams you guys had were just unstoppable, Carl.
Yeah, it was a collective effort. And that's, when we talk about accountability, we wanted, everybody to do well, and we held each other accountable. And, that's kind of what I was talking about with Dexter and BJ, that partner in crime thing where, you see your two best players holding each other accountable. Everybody else falls in line too. Nobody wants to let anybody down.
That's right. Well, one last question before we get you out of here. We're used to John Harbaugh in these parts, having been with the Baltimore Ravens for so many years. I just saw him at a pep rally. It was some town hall deal. He's already calling out the Dallas Cowboys. So he's made himself right at home. He seems to fit right in New York, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, he does. And the thing is, he's anybody that's watched the Giants, you can see that you can pretty much peg how the division's going to go, right? It's going to be Philly, Dallas by default, and then Giants and Washington battling out for worse, right? You look at the games that the Giants lost last year, and you can say, well, they could probably, and so he's sending that message to his players too. And the one thing
that's right.
You notice right away from this offseason, these players are saying this offseason is as hard as they've ever had.
Wow.
And then Harbaugh said, that's our standard. This is what we are used to. I'm not sure what you guys were doing in your training, but this is the standard. This is the NFL standard for high-level play. And so they've embraced it.
There you go.
And I think they're going to be a big physical team, and they'll be able to challenge Dallas.
Yeah. No, I think the NFC East is back to being one of the more difficult divisions. Sure. We know no one up until last year with the Eagles winning is the first time I think in almost 20 years a team has won that division in 2 consecutive seasons. It just changes hands year over year because the 4 teams are so good. But I certainly think the Giants are on their way back. We love Cam Scatterboo. We love the frat boys, he and Jackson Dart. Now they got to be more consistent, and Malik Neighbors is a talent that's I think that we're all anticipate on watching and seeing him play and getting back to health. We want to thank you for taking the time to join us. Your expertise and the balance reporting that you do is so appreciated. Just want you to know that. And look, I always watched you play, man, and I can tell you right now, it's not always a guy on defense want to watch another guy on defense, but the way you guys played, you made other players on the other team's defense want to watch you guys. So that's always been appreciated. That, man. Okay.
Thank you,
All the best to you. You take care. That is the great Carl Banks. We'll be back with more. We'll see you next time, everyone, right here on the Bleav in Bengal podcast, presented by FanDuel.